Hello everyone, Geekly here. You might not have seen me that much recently. It's been a hell of a few weeks, but hopefully I can start getting some actual content out, including some tutorials. So this is the night vision goggles. It's actually quite simple. It uses the night vision post-processing device, but I wanted to make it a bit more involved, a bit more interesting, and hopefully if we go through the process you can see how I at least find it easier to work on iterating different elements and starting simple and going more complicated, and how that also helps with bug fixing, especially when you don't know if the bug is with your device use or the devices themselves. So hopefully it can be interesting. At least I don't have to do as much typing if I do some speaking. Okay, so I know some things I'm going to need. I'm going to need a switch because I want to have everything linked to one single point that I can use to turn everything on or off. In this case I'm going to use a switch, and let's see. First iteration, it's going to be a switch and a filter. I might not even use a switch. Let's see. There you go, night vision. Congratulations. If all we wanted was to have night vision, we're done. Okay, as I said, I'm going to have a single point switch, which means that if I want to turn on or off the night vision through different devices later, I don't have to worry about wiring them up to multiple devices, whether it's the filters, or cameras, or anything else. I can just go directly to this switch. It's also the beginning of a night vision module if you want. It's also useful because if I do want to come along and layer up devices for example, more filters, add a vignette, then it will be easy to copy and paste, and that'll copy all the connections to the switch, which will already have any connections to devices used. So let's try this out. I've done something wrong here. I died. Why did I die? And that didn't work. See? We start simple and break it simple. I'll be right back. Do not spawn, huh? Yeah, that'll do it. Here we are. Excellent. Right, the model in its base form, the night vision effect works. We can add the complexity now. So what I'm thinking is we have third person play, but when we turn the night vision on, we go in for a first person view. Have it a bit claustrophobic, a bit more cinematic. Also, if there's any sort of delay with the filter starting, then we can use a bit of fade to hide that, so you don't have that sort of odd transition. I find that lowering the field of view adds that claustrophobic effect. And constant testing, because if you change a little bit and then it doesn't work, then you know that something you just changed is probably what broke it. up to switch, I want them to be able to use a button press. So I'm going to use an input trigger to capture something that people aren't going to use much, and I'm going to use the emote somewhere. Where is it? Why do I use a toggle for the switch instead of turning it on and off? Well, if you do something simple, natural, like using triggers as a relay, so one of them's active, one of them's inactive, you turn one on, it goes to the on signal and then activates the other trigger while disabling the current one, then you can have two different actions from the same button press. But it doesn't always work. I don't know why. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I've had that not work. I've also had it work where, or not work, where you try and use two trigger devices or input trigger devices and have one of them active at a time. That doesn't like working. So this is something that historically I've had more luck with. So fingers crossed. Just to complicate things a little more, I want to have a battery that will run down when you're using it, that will be able to be recharged, and will not run down when you're not using it. So I'm going to use the stat devices for this one. So I create a stat called battery, which I'm just going to call variable half the time, so just they're interchangeable as far as this is concerned. I don't know about everyone else, but finding the right icon for these is vitally important. But they rarely have the right icon, so you just go with one that sort of works. I'm going to need multiple of these coins to add and subtract the right values, depending on whether it's discharging, recharging, or just to set it at a certain point when the player starts. There you go. We've got a simple battery meter in the bottom corner, and we can pick up battery to charge it. Now we just need to connect it to something that will drain the battery. Not quite sure how I'm going to do this, but I think I've got an idea. Okay, so here's the idea. Once this is applied, it will last forever and take off 1 unit per tick, which I'm assuming is seconds on these. And it will keep on going for as long as it's active, and will make it so it's active when the device is on and inactive when it's not. And by device I mean the night vision goggles, obviously. And then all we need is something to stop the effect once it's not being used. Guys, no seriousness, let me know if you'd rather just have me type this on screen and have some music in the background. Right, so got a charge. Night vision on. Is that going down? Yes, I think it's okay. I probably need to increase the numbers just for the effect, but that definitely went down. try this again. Much better. Of course, there's nothing stopping you from actually using it, even if you are... I stopped. Even if you are out of charge, but that's coming next. Okay, so we use this one to keep an eye out to see when this variable, when the stat goes to 0, effectively, so less than 1. So if it succeeds, or you've got no charge, it will send a signal to the switch to turn it off. The reason I disable that switch then, by the way, is because I don't want people to be able to use the night vision if they don't have any charge. Alright, so this is just a simple HUD message. It'll show up when you don't have any charge to say you don't have any charge, and then you know why you're pressing that button and nothing's happening. Okay, so I didn't realise that you can't disable or enable HUD message devices. So what we'll do is use the trigger as a relay, and I'm sure that nothing will go wrong this time because that only works with other stuff related to input triggers. We might get lucky. Okay, so the trigger is enabled when the stat counter is succeeded, so they have no charge, and it's disabled on compare failure when they do have charge. Okay, we don't have any charge. The message showed up, which is good, but we still got our night vision on. Okay, I think it's because I tried to use the night vision before it discharged. So if you start with a full charge, it should be fine. I was kind of hoping the night vision would go off now. Oh, that's a thing. Okay, so it looks like disabling the switch and turning it off are having some sort of interference. I think it's disabling it and then preventing you from being able to turn it off. So if we just take away the disable bit, we can do something later on to just enforce a check of some sort. See if that fixes it at least. Alright, got our charge. Batteries are going down. Okay. The good news is we might need to turn it off. Bad news is we can still use it even though we've got no power. Okay, hear me out here. We're going to use the compare stat. So instead of just relying on it to actively do things, we'll trigger it whenever the input button is pressed, and then that way, if you have no charge, when you try to use it, it should do the effect you want when you don't have any charge. If that makes sense, can someone write it in the comments so that I know what I just said? Okay, so it flickers, but we end up with no power, and it turns off. When we've got power, we don't get the no power message, and we can turn it on and off manually. And when the battery charge goes down, we lose this night vision, and if we try and start it again, we get the message. I can live with that flicker. It's not great, but it's fine. It's fine. Alright, we're going to get around to the fact that you can still see a flicker of it when you select it if you have no charge by disabling the post-processing device whenever you run out of charge. I'm hoping that works. No power, no flicker, no zoom. It's working. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is try and make it so that we can have a dark version for anyone who's not using night vision. So it doesn't have it or doesn't have it charged. I will do that by adding a dark filter and having it activate on the opposite schedule of the other one, or the opposite sequence. So night vision off, dark filter on, dark filter off, night vision on. See how that goes. It should be as simple as copying the device, changing the settings for the actual output, and switching the inputs. To start thinking of this as a real world use, I'm going to set it so that when you spawn, you automatically get some charge. The best way to do that is just have you spawn on a spawn pad. Set up the player spawner and have it check the status of the toggle, and then that can decide whether they show the night or night vision view. This feels a bit hacky, but I've now been at this for exactly 30 minutes, so hacky is where it starts to go wrong. It's supposed to be dark. Okay, I'll turn off the faster duration mode, maybe that affected it. Yes. I mean, we're not exactly talking debilitating levels of darkness here that would make it worthwhile having night vision, but right, I think I've got a better idea. Alright, so the thought I definitely didn't just have was lay a bunch of filters over it and hope it works for the best. That never happened. I'm not going to include this bit. Okay, so we'll use something along the lines of a day sequence device, fog, something else to make everything dark for the players that are supposed to be in the dark. But then we've got to make the night vision useful. And I think I'm going to try using the neon party mode, something like that, that basically gives everything an outline. So we'll end up with a nice, slightly futuristic night vision mode. There you go, the neon party. Okay, well, other than the fact that the night stuff looks rubbish, but we're going to use a day sequence device or something for that. Just keep everyone in the dark who's not using it. I think we're ready to delete those extra devices and make up a little scene. Be right back. Night vision. What do you think? No battery, runs out, and did you spot the deliver error? For some reason, one of the filters isn't turning off. Alright, I'm just going to have a quick mess around with this right now, see what I can do, and I'll let you know if I fix it. Okay, I think I've got an idea. I don't know why, but relay triggers in this seem to be working. Only if I put a delay on one of them. Something about trying to turn off two filters at the same time is causing problems. But you put a very slight delay on one of them and it works fine. I think. Fingers crossed. Okay, we'll add a HUD controller. Give the player something stealthy to shoot. And somebody to shoot at. And we might just have ourselves a working night vision goggle system. Of course they put the battery outside in the middle of the frickin' floor. Who put it there? This level design is terrible. For anyone curious, I just set the vision area off those guards really small to simulate... Simulate? Yes, let's simulate the concept of them being stuck in the dark. So what do you think? How's this format work? Is it better than the old way where I just put on some text on screen and play some terrible, terrible music in the background? Or should I talk more? Or do you want to mix? You know, this is kind of up to you because you're the ones that are watching it. And while we're at it, thank you so much for watching it. It means a lot to me. Now, you are awesome, you matter, and you're creative. So go and create something awesome.